I spoke at the top of the program about Housing Australia, the agency responsible for rolling out the Prime Minister's plan for 40,000 new social and affordable houses within the next 5 years. Now, they've burned through $30 million in a single year on consultants and salaries for the grand total of 0 homes built. Michael, you're a former state treasurer. Is this reasonable or is it wasteful?
Oh, this is an absolute disgrace. And not only that, there is no chance in the world that this program is going to work. There is absolutely no chance. And I noted in your introduction, you talked about the accreditation. Wait till the unions get involved in this with a reinvigorated, Fair Work Commission and a reinvigorated Industrial Relations Act that puts the unions in the centre of this housing construction. You're going to see delay after delay and cost blowout after cost blowout. This will fail. It is absolutely guaranteed to fail. It reminds me of the pink bats. Hopefully there's no fatalities and problems that arise because of this program. But as an economic program, as a house building program, it's going to fail. And secondly, a lot of the problems relate to the state level. You point out the state level. It's the planning issues, the development issues, the DAs, all of those infrastructure issues that are required to put these houses, that there is absolutely no coordination with the federal government. It's a waste of money and it's the wrong way to approach this when we know that immigration's partly driving the problems in this area and they need to deal with that.
Garth, you're a politician, I'm not, so help me understand. When politicians throw out these promises, we're going to build 40,000 homes in the next 5 years or whatever it is, do they believe it when they say it? And do they keep believing it? Or at some point, did they believe it, but now they even know this ain't going to happen, but they can't admit it and they just hope we all forget about it? How does this actually work? Because I'm confused.
Look, I think a lot of Australians are confused. I'm a politician now. I started off life as a concreter. Anyone who's done any time on the tools knew this was a ridiculous promise for the Albanese government to make. There's absolutely no surprise to see it fall, but to see it completely deliver absolutely nothing. This government now has a crisis of credibility because we're in the middle of a housing crisis. They have let in over 500,000 people in the year leading up to last September. We've seen the numbers, a city the size of Adelaide coming to Australia. And their answer to this was, don't worry, we've got this great housing program, we're going to solve everything. Don't listen to those nasty Liberals who are pointing out facts about how many people are coming here, how many homes are being made available. Don't worry about that, we've got the answer. Well, it turns out they don't. They have absolutely no answer whatsoever. And Australia's future is getting that much dimmer, that much unlikely for Australians looking to get a house to be able to get onto that property ladder.
I don't want to spend the entire segment just bagging the government. So I was trying to find something positive we could talk about. And I thought, well, maybe we could talk about the NDIS. But we learned this week that's a complete mess as well. In fact, we learned that it's a $2 billion a year mess. That's how much is being rorted, according to the scheme's integrity chief, John Dardo. He claims that a survey of NDIS plan managers found 90% showed, and I quote, significant indicators of fraud. Health Minister Mark Butler was wheeled out this morning to defend the indefensible. Here he was on the Today Show.
This is a terrific scheme that's providing support to people with disability. There's certainly too many dodgy providers, which is why Bill Shorten's legislation before the Parliament to clean it up and get the NDIS back on track is so important. He understands the needs of Australians living with disability and their families intimately. They know him well, they trust him. They want action, and we need to pass these laws through the Parliament.
Garth, how can they call it a wonderful scheme when there's $2 billion worth of rorts and 90% of the program managers are being accused of fraud? By what definition is that a great scheme?
Look, I'll speak very personally on this one. We hear often, everyone who starts off a conversation about the NDIS talks about the good that the scheme does. I'm losing faith in the scheme, and I think a great many Australians are. I absolutely want to see part of my tax dollars go towards helping out the most disadvantaged people in our society. I think that's a good thing. Most people would agree with that. That severely disabled people deserve some help in our community. Everyone's behind that idea. But we've got to separate that from what the NDIS is and what it's become. And I think at this point, the idea that it can be just manipulated a little bit to get it back on track, no, it needs substantive change to make this a program that actually does what it's supposed to do without becoming the blank cheque that it looks like more and more.
Michael, just quickly, Bill Shorten, who's in charge of this mess, he can't do a Giles and blame everybody else because he was there at the beginning. He was there when the Julia Gillard government, and he was instrumental in actually setting up this scheme, which has now run so far off the rails.
Absolutely right. And many people at the time said that this would become, if it wasn't managed properly, a honeypot and lead to exactly the problems that are there. But remember, these problems are also been there during the period of the coalition. So, look, I think what needs to happen here is to take it seriously in terms of the fraud component. And that requires, I would argue, that you set up a special unit within the Australian Federal Police and you start to focus in on the fraud as a problem in and of itself. In terms of the NDIS, remember this: the federal budget's predicated on a reduction of its growth from 14% to 8%. And you've got the federal treasurer out there today saying that he's got the budget exactly right. None of those savings have actually emerged. And it's only after the budget that we hear that the rorting is up to $2 billion. And I think it's higher than that because you've also got to include the inefficiencies that are emerging in the programs that are that are allegedly well run. I mean, that's also wasted public money. And in a sense, it's a giant scandal. There needs to be a bipartisan approach and some focus on getting rid of the criminality out of the system.
Michael, I agree with you. They need to crack down on the fraud. But the integrity chief said yesterday that if they were to prosecute everybody involved in fraud in the NDIS, he said it would literally break the judicial system. There's that much fraud going on. What an absolute mess. Michael Costa.
Well, that's an indictment.
It is an absolute indictment. Michael, Garth, thanks so much for your time.